Zipper law, loop D, phone light in a nylon tent. The zipper pull creeps a millimeter under no hand. On the outside skin, a clean palm blooms through dew and slides exactly 1 inch. From the silent weather radio, a slow, careful voice that isn't on any station says, "Don't open." You thought a midweek campout would rinse city noise out of your head. 2 small tents, 1 borrowed stove, loop D at Black Alder Campground under a roof of pines. You're 25. Your friend Maya is the kind of optimist who believes a headlamp can solve personality. Rules taped to the kiosk with a staple that remembers storms. Quiet hours after 10. Fire out by midnight. Stay on designated pads. In marker, someone had added, "Do not unzip at night." The ranger rolled his eyes. "Printer's old," he said, as if absolutions were policy. The first weirdness is polite. As you stake your fly, your pocket labeler used to mark fuel bottles, and ego wakes without your thumb and feeds a strip you did in TQ. "Do not unzip." Along the edge, ghost gray digits that aren't the hour. 3:13 a.m. You laugh the way people swallow nails and stick the strip on your tent door because paper makes rules heavier. Maya's making dinner like heat is a personality trait. The creek behind, loop D tells the same sentence over and over to rocks that sign nothing. Somewhere, an owl encourages bad memories. Your phone buzzes on the picnic table where it shouldn't live. Unknown. Confirm entry at 3:13. The map lands inside your tent, then behind your shoulder, then... You hold the power button until mercy. The lock screen flashes 3:13 like a gambler and hands the hour back. The camp feels like a machine idling, transformer thread miles away. Wind combing needles into choir, your pot lid ticking cool. At the kiosk, the thermal ticket dispenser coughs a strip without anyone touching feed. Do not open tents. You press it under Plex because paper pinned under plastic is a promise with staples. You do the work hands understand, hang bear bag, range check, headlamp beams. Tap the bottle that calls itself stove fuel like it's a pet learning tricks. The zipper on your tent shivers a millimeter, a sleeper scratching. You lay your palm on nylon and say no like bedtime. On the fly, a palm blooms through dew 5, long ovals, and a heel slides 1 inch. Thins, you set your own hand to your side because mammals have rituals. Through nylon and cool, pressure match is present, not pushy as, if a hand through fabric agrees, you both exist. The weather radio clicks without static and lowers a voice into the campsite piece by piece, careful as a librarian, shelving a warning, don't open. Not the ranger, not a broadcast, the tone cities use to label bones. You and Maya look at each other with the kind of smile people wear into cold water. "Radio's old," she says, and decants fear into a joke. Night spoons down. Fire goes to coal, and then to memory. The campground agrees on one breath wind. Lines creak. Your ribs aligned into a held note that sets a ruler under your sternum. In that chord, your zipper pull nudges a tooth and remembers shame when your fingers rest on it, like a hand on a dog who knows roads too well. By 11:12 p.m., loop D is a row of red eyes and breaths. A faint whistle comes from the Revenant notes at the exact pitch you used to call Maya when she floats away in thoughts, landing a half-beat late like a copy trying to keep step. You do not answer. She mouths no across firelight. You nod like a metronome that has seen things. Your labeler coughs again, edges damp as if letters can sweat. Don't acknowledge tapping. You wedge the strip under a guy line, not where your hand will be rude and see it. The phone you put to sleep throws a photo you didn't ask for into your gallery. The tent from above. Your shoulders hunched at the door, the clock on the corner insisting 3:13 where numbers should be boring. No caption. You let the screen go dark like a lid on a box. Maya ducks into her tent. Her light washes the fly seam and quits. The forest grows so patient you can hear bark reconsidering which way it wants to be. The pull on your zipper creeps. One more tooth and repents when you whisper the rule to fabric. Keep the zipper closed. From the creek, tap-tap travels the footbridge rail measured. Left to right, then back as if Knuckles were learning punctuation. In your reflection on the river like a sheet of ink, a head leans toward your left ear for one frame. Mouth open on don't.
Ow.
The next ripple pretends it never met mirrors. You print a little sign because signs are spells. After dark zippers, stay closed. Painter's tape breathes like a small lung when you press it to your fly. Your hands shake only enough to be honest. Midnight puts on its coat. The nearest car sighs the way machines apologize in their sleep. In the distance, someone laughs in a key that forgives itself. On your tent, another palm blooms higher than your breath could fog and slides its faithful inch. You do not match it this time. Consent is a renewable resource, and yours is busy. You lie down with boots within reach, and the radio within reach of that. Pine pitch and smoke make a small church of the air. Your phone under your jacket warms like small guilt. Unknown texts. Are you ready to unzip? The map sits behind your shoulder, then inside your pillow. Then, you turn the phone face down on the idea that darkness can be taught. The zipper whispers half a tooth. The weather radio, merciful, gives you a bedtime rule in that careful museum wait. Leave. It closed. You can feel the sentence settle your joints like sleep that pays rent. Time takes up residence. Minutes arrive with posture. Leave without receipts. For one wrong frame in your tent cam, air turns to chaff. A slow fall, as if harvest wandered indoors. The next frame is nylon and shadow again. On the other side of your fly, something maps the seam with two knuckles, exact to your pulse. You do not answer knocking. Maya whispers through fabric, voice pitched to not attract the alphabet. You awake? You answer with a finger on your zipper like math. You hear her say no to her own pull tab 3 times, patient as a metronome. The forest holds very still for a while, like a hand about to set down a glass. At 12:23 a.m., the campground decides to be a single animal again, aligned. Wind, lines, creek, ribs one, note in that held breath. Your zipper pull kisses its stop and decides against treason. The radio offers its last mercy before the famous hour clocks in. Don't go out. You sleep in the shape that leaves room for flight and wake to keys that are in T-keys. Not metal tap-tap on the pole above your head, polite as someone asking to borrow time. The tent wall fogs a palm and slides its inch like faith practiced on purpose. Something returns to the whistle 2 notes. A beat laid in, the footbridge returns it smaller. An animal circles the bare box, fails case law, and leaves. You dream your zipper all the way down and wake with your hand on it still high, still righteous. The radio breathes once like a teacher closing a book. 313 sits down like rumor that found a chair. Every small indicator blinks once and holds the green thread in the exit sign at the pit toilet. The dot on your headlamp, even though it's off, the heartbeat on Maya's little solar brick. The forest takes one long breath through needles and creek and lines and ribs and lets it go. On your tent wall and her tent wall, 2 perfect palms bloom, facing inward, and slide together 1 inch before thinning to memory. The zipper pull does nothing that would shame metal. The radio gives its last kindness. Keep the tent closed. The phone remembers to be a rock. Dawn experiments with the color it wants to be and picks pine. Birds draft a constitution about loudness. You and Maya meet in the pale like exhausted diplomats. Quiet. She asks, which is how people who count nights ask if the world stayed unaltered. Mostly you say, and hold up the damp strips. She frowns at, do not unzip, and Dante acknowledged tapping, like she wishes she'd de-written them before she believed in them. Printer's old. She decides the camper spell for phenomena that don't fit in bare boxes. You both wait until noon to crack the tent in daylight that understands duty. The zipper comes down like an apology you were willing to accept. The forest is only a forest. On the underside of the fly seam, in tiny pencil neither of you owns, a sentence waits where no glove writes comfortably. Leave the zipper closed. The letters look pressed up from the other side, as if a hand wrote them through fabric. You trade a few nights for afternoons and tell people it's for your spine. Some weeks around 313, your apartment radiator knocks twice, like a polite tent pole. And the bathroom mirror fogs a thumb width higher than you can reach, while a palm clears a coin and slides a patient inch. Your phone wakes to unknown, ready to unzip. It's bored when you don't. When it asks in other ways, you keep your hands off doorways that pretend affection. You don't answer. Tapping that knows your pulse and arrives a beat late. You don't step out into shadows that remember your name. In the steady voice the pines taught you, you say, Zippers stay shut. For a long, thin moment, your room hums one note like wind, practicing kindness. A head leans near your left ear and rehearses the first half of Don't, and then the pipes remember water. The hour returns the number it borrowed. And whatever was learning your campsite a half beat behind you chooses someone else's woods and leaves yours to daylight. Tape that sticks and doors that mean it. Bear box rule. Pine Hollow lantern light washes a steel bear locker at a forest campsite. The latch jiggles a hair under no hand. On the cold metal, a clean palm blooms in dew and slides exactly 1 inch. From a muted weather radio, a slow, careful voice that isn't on any station says, "Don't." Open. You picked Pine Hollow because midweek meant empty loops and stars that don't negotiate. 2 tents, a rented lantern, a green steel locker with claw-proof confidence. You're 25. Your friend Theo swears a thermarest can fix a personality. Rules are stapled under cloudy plex at the kiosk. Quiet hours, douse fires, food in lockers at all times. Someone added in Sharpie, "Do not open lockers after dark." The ranger shrugged, said the sign printer lives its own life. The day is chores you chose on purpose. Bear can and cooler go inside the locker. The door swings down like a rational jaw. The little label maker you brought to tame chaos wakes without your thumb and spits a strip you never cued. Do not open bear box. Along the torn edge, ghost gray digits that aren't the hour. 3:13 a.m. You laugh the kind of laugh that's mostly throat. Stick the strip on the locker door and pretend paper can anchor physics. Theo sizzles sausages like a sermon. Creek beyond Loop F speaks the same 2 sentences to rocks that don't care. Your phone buzzes where it shouldn't live. Unknown. Confirm box access at 3:13. The map dot lands inside the locker, then behind your shoulder, then you hold the power button until mercy. The lock screen flashes 3:13 like a wager and gives the hour back. At dusk, everything chooses to hum in 1 key wind threading needles. Distant power lines and their low vowel, the lantern's timid inverter, your ribs memorizing count. In that held note, the locker's latch shivers a millimeter, a sleeper scratching. Your palm settles on cold steel. No, said like a bedtime you intend to enforce, the first odd thing is polite. 2 knuckles touch the locker door tap measured, not thermal pop. On the metal, moisture blooms a palm 5 long ovals and a heel slides 1 inch thins. You set your hand to your side because mammals keep old rituals. Through steel and cool, pressure match is present, not pushy as. If a hand through material agrees, you both exist. The weather radio clicks when nobody touches it and pours a voice into the air like a librarian shelving a warning. Dan T. Open. Not the ranger's cadence, not forecast English. The tone towns reserved for bones. Theo raises his eyebrows in a way that means I notice, I'm not naming it. Solar interference, says, which is optimism wearing a lab coat. Night sets the table and expects you to stay. Fire turns to coal blush, then to memory. The campground composes a steady breath-wind creak, line hum. Your heart lined into a backbone you can lay your ear against. In that chord, the locker's latch nudges a hair and learns shame when your glove returns to steel. A whistle rides up from the ravine to notes at exactly the pitch you use when Theo wanders out of range landing, a half beat late, like an echo that decided to freelance. You don't answer. Theo points at the locker with 2 fingers and mouths no. You nod like a metronome that survived freshman year. Your label maker coughs another strip, which is damp, as if letters sweat. Don't acknowledge knocks. You wedge it under the latch so your hand will be rude and see it. The phone you made sleep takes its own photo, your camp from above. The green locker, your palm on steel. The corner clock insisting 3:13 where numbers should behave. No caption. The gallery eats it like it pays rent. Theo peels off to his tent. His headlamp drifts the fly seam and quits. The woods make the kind of silence that lets bark think about spine. The locker jiggles once caught on the polite side of movement. The radio merciful adds a rule in that careful museum wait. Leave it closed. Crawl into your tent with the lantern within reach and your lifespan organized. Condensation from your breath ink blots, the mesh and shapes that could be countenance if you let them. From outside, tap tap, maps the locker's door left to right, then back. Punctuation learning a sentence. On your phone screen as a mirror, a head hangs in the reflection, a half beat late, and leans toward your left ear, mouth open at the first half of don't. The next blink returns your face to ownership. A raccoon stops by to file a request with the locker, reads your tape, and decides the bureaucracy is unbeatable. Somewhere on loop E, a zipper whispers ambition and then minders. You print a camp sign because signs are spells. After dark, bear box stays closed. Painter's tape breathes like a small lung when you smooth it over green paint. Your hands shake only enough to tell the truth. Midnight wears no costume. The lantern's battery chooses humility. Theo whispers through nylon. You awake? You answer with a hum low and human. The whistle returns, 2 notes, still a beat late. The footbridge gives it back smaller, as if wood is the better grown-up. At 12:06 a.m., the little creak inhales like it means to sing, and then remembers it's just work. The locker door fogs another palm higher than your mouth can reach and slides its inch. You do not match it this time. Consent is renewable. Yours is already assigned. Back at the picnic table, the lantern unlit throws one wrong frame on your tent cam, air full of slow chaff drifting just outside the fly, like a harvest forgot which side of the world owns wind. The next frame obeys nylon. The forest becomes one instrument again at 12:23 Wind Creek, line ribs. In that held breath, the bear locker's latch kisses the keeper and declines treason. The radio cradles the last mercy it can afford before the infamous hour clocks in. Don't go out. You resent how grateful you are to a plastic box. Minutes settle like embers deciding whether to matter. Twice, 2 knuckles tap the locker in time with your pulse. Twice the latch gathers itself and remembers employment. Your phone pulses on the picnic table where you left it face down. Unknown. Food spoiling open now? The map starts behind your shoulder, moves inside the locker, then apologizes out of existence. You do not move. The tent fabric takes a deep breath and exhale that you film with brain only. 313 sits down like rumor that found a chair. Every small indicator blinks once and holds the thread-thin green at the pit toilet exit sign. The tiny dot on your headlamp even off. The blue wink on the lantern that swore it was dead. The forest takes one long breath through needles and water and wire and ribs and lets it go. On the bare locker and the picnic tabletop, 2 perfect palms bloom facing each other and slide together 1 inch before thinning to memory. The latch forgets to dream. The radio speaks once more with museum weight. Keep. The box closed. The phone remembers it's a rock. Dawn rehearses colors and settles on pine. Theo emerges, puffy-eyed, a hair wilder. Quiet, he asks. Which is how people who count nights ask if the world stayed unaltered. Mostly, you say, and lay the damp strips in his palm. He frowns at do not open bear box and Don T acknowledged knocks like they re-policies he should have written before he believed in them. Printer acts up, he decides. The camper's absolution for phenomena you can't put in a bear can. You don't crack the locker until noon, in a square of sunlight that suits physics. The door opens like metal being honest. Inside, cold sausages you didn't earn. Coffee you did. On the inner lip beneath the latch, in tiny grease pencil, none of you owns. Sentence waits where no glove writes comfortably. Leave the box closed. The letters look pressed up from the other side, as if a hand wrote them through steel. A month later, you trade some nights for afternoons and tell people it's for your spine. Some weeks around 313, your apartment radiator knocks twice like polite fingers on green paint, and the bathroom mirror fogs a thumb width higher than you can reach, while a palm clears a coin and slides a patient inch. Your phone wakes to unknown. Time to open? And gets bored when you don't? When it asks in other ways, you keep your hands off latches that pretend affection. You don't answer knocking that arrives a beat late and knows your pulse. You don't step out for voices that learned your names from whistles. In the steady voice the trees taught you, you say, "Bear box stays closed." For a long, thin moment, your room hums one note like wind, deciding to be kind. A head leans by your left ear and practices the first half of don't, and then the pipes remember water. The hour returns the number it borrowed, and whatever was learning your campsite a half beat behind you chooses someone else. Loop and leaves yours to daylight tape that sticks, and metal that keeps its promises. Bridge hours, raven loop headlamp beam on a wet wooden footbridge. The handrail absorbs the light. On the damp grain, a clean palm blooms and slides exactly 1 inch. From a silent weather radio in a pocket, a slow, careful voice that isn't on any station says, "Don't cross." You picked the Raven Loop because the ranger said it was more creek than crowd. 2 tents under hemlock, 1 blue tarp pretending to be a roof, a footbridge 30 yards from camp where the trail folds itself over black water. You're 25. Your friend Jules collects maps like they're a kind of vitamin. Kiosk rules sleep under cloudy plexi. Quiet hours after 10, fires out at midnight, stay on your site, no night hiking. In ballpoint at the bottom, do not cross the footbridge after dark. The ranger smiled like folklore and shrugged. Printer's old. Day burns down in the kind of chores that feel like ownership. Food bag gets hoisted, guy lines get tuned until the tarp sings. The little label maker you brought to tame chaos wakes without your thumb and spits a strip you never cued. Do not cross bridge. Along the torn edge, ghost gray digits that aren't the hour. 3:13 a.m. You laugh the swallow and ale laugh and stick the strip to the bridge post because paper makes rules heavier. Creek voice is a long sentence, rewritten with rocks. Somewhere uphill, the line on the road hums a low vowel to your ribs. Jules tests their headlamp, turns a circle, declares the night photogenic, which is a word people use to make darkness small. Your phone buzzes where it shouldn't live. Unknown. Confirm crossing at 3:13. The tiny map dot lands inside the creek, then behind your shoulder. Then, you hold the power button until mercy. A lock screen flashes 3:13 like a dare and returns to now. Dusk finds a rhythm. Lantern tick, tarp hiss, creek's consonants. The first odd thing is polite. 2 knuckles tap the footbridge rail measured, not with swell. In your beam, moisture blooms a palm on the handrail, slides 1 inch, thins. Your own hand rises in docent touch because you an animal who learned rituals and restraint in the same year. The weather radio on the picnic table clicks, though Jules didn't turn it on. A voice arrives slow and careful, set down in the air with both hands. Don't cross. Not the ranger. Not forecast English. The museum-toned cities keep for labeling bones. Jules says skip signal like the atmosphere is an accomplice. Night lays the heavy quilt. The campground chooses a single breath wind in needles. Line hum, creak. Your ribs aligned into a held note that slides a ruler under your sternum. In that chord, the bridge trembles a hair, a sleeper scratching, then remembers shame when you set your palm flat to damp wood and say no, the way you talk to dogs who know roads too well. At 11:09 p.m., a whistle floats from the ravine to clean notes. Exactly the pitch you use when Jules drifts off, trail landing a half beat late like a copy trying to keep step. You do not answer. Jules mouths no from the fire ring, and you nod like a metronome that survived the semester. The label maker coughs again, edges damp as if letters sweat. Don't acknowledge knocks. You tape it to the rail where your hand will be rude and see it. Your phone, face down, takes a photo you didn't ask for. Bridge in headlamp glare. Your hand on the post. The corner clock insisting 3:13 where numbers should be boring. No caption. You let the black glass be a lid. Jules retreats to their tent. Their light moves along a seam and goes polite. Woods settle into the kind of patience that lets bark think about spine. Handrail breathes a thin fog you didn't see happen. In the water beneath, your reflection shows, a head leaned at your left ear for 1 frame, mouth open on don't. The next ripple returns your face to the custody of physics. You print a camp sign because signs are spells. After dark, do not cross bridge. Painter. Tape breathes like a small lung under your thumb and holds 2 wet grain as if it has opinions. The fire's last coal performs a red eye and forgives itself. A raccoon makes case law against your bear bag and loses. The tap-tap returns along the rail left to right, then back as if Knuckles were learning punctuation. You make tea because kettles translate fear into ounces. At 11:31 p.m., the world synchronizes. Creek wire, wind, and bone-aligned. In that breath, the first plank nudges a fraction outward and decides against verbs when you say no to lumber as if it had ears. The weather radio, merciful, adds a bedtime rule in that careful museum wait. Leave it. Closed. You realize you don't have a word for what a bridge is when it's not a door and decide to borrow closed anyway? Jules texts from 10 yards in a zippered world. All good? Your reply lands with a timestamp that wears 3:13 like a borrowed name. then remembers honesty. Printers old. They write back the camper's absolution for nights that want priests and get duct tape. Back at the creek, your headlamp finds chaff drifting in still air across the bridge deck. For one wrong frame, like a harvest wandered indoors and forgot its gravity. The next frame returns to wet wood and insect laws. Midnight doesn't dress up. The creek keeps talking in its favorite paragraph. The bridge fogs another palm farther out on the rail and slides its inch like a metronome teaching a boundary. You do not match it this time. Consent is renewable and yours is booked. From downstream, the whistle returns to notes. Beat latent, the footbridge sends back a smaller version, like a teacher correcting punctuation. Your chest learns the grammar of no and keeps it. 12:06 a.m., the radio breathes a single syllable. Stops. Breathes again with a voice like a librarian tucking in a dangerous book. Don't go out. The only out from here is the planks to the other side, the trail where light forgets its job and roots pick favorites. You sit on the near end of the bridge like furniture doing its intent. The posts are colder than mercy. The creek performs a music exam nobody graded. Twice, 2 knuckles tap the rail exact to your pulse. Twice, the handrail shivers and remembers its contract. 12:23 finds the forest as one instrument again. In that long note, the middle span kisses its brackets and declines treason. Your phone in the pocket of your jacket, which you swore off, vibrates with gall. Unknown, trail reroute, cross now. The map starts behind your shoulder, moves onto the span, then apologizes to no one and vanishes. You do not move. Your hands remember being doors and choose not to be. Jules whispers through nylon because bravery has volume control. You hearing that? You answer with a hum. And the quiet words stay like you re-talking to a dog who made good decisions today. Minutes arrive like campers who paid late and leave without receipts. The plank under your heel stops pretending it can think. A moth commits to your forehead light and writes its name in Morse you cannot read. 3:13 sits down like rumor that found a chair. Every small indicator blinks once and holds the green thread at the pit toilet, the pale bead on your sleeping battery pack through nylon, the low lead on the radio that swore it was off. The forest takes one long breath through needle and wire and water and ribs and lets it go. On the handrail and the trail post, 2 perfect palms bloom facing each other and slide together 1 inch before thinning to memory. The bridge declines to be a verb. The radio offers its last kindness in that careful wait. Keep. Bridge. Empty. Dawn rehearses, then commits. Birds convene a committee on volume. Jules emerges with hair that suggests treaties were signed overnight. Quiet? They ask, which is how people who count nights ask if the world stayed unaltered. Mostly, you say, and lay the damp strips in their hand. They frown at do not cross bridge, and Dante acknowledge knocks like they read policies they should have written before they believed in them. Printers old, they decide. The campers spell for phenomena. You can't pack out. You don't cross until noon, in a square of sunlight that knows its job. The planks behave. The creek is only a creek. On the underside of the far rail, in tiny pencil neither of you owns, sentence waits where no glove writes comfortably. Leave the bridge alone. The letters look pressed up from the other side, as if a hand wrote them through wood. But you trade some nights for afternoons and claim it's for your spine. Some weeks around 3:13, your apartment radiator knocks twice like polite fingers on a rail. The bathroom mirror fogs a thumb width higher than you can reach while a palm clears a coin and slides a patient inch. Your phone wakes to unknown. Reroute active cross. Okay? And gets bored when you don't. When it asks in other ways, you keep your feet off crossings that pretend affection. You don't answer whistles that arrive a beat late and know your pulse. You don't step onto planks that remember your name. In the steady voice the creek taught you, you say, "We stay on this side, for a long." Thin moment, your room hums one note like wind practicing kindness. A head leans near your left ear and rehearses the first half of Don't, and then the pipes remember water. The hour returns the number it borrowed. And whatever was learning your loop a half beat behind you, chooses someone else's crossing and leaves yours to daylight. Tape that sticks, and trails that mean it.